Fort Zachary Taylor. They built it out here so that they could fight off pirates. And
Like
then,
you.
Yeah.
Pirates with the booty.
Then they started salvaging shipwrecks and manufacturing cigars, and it became the richest city in Florida.
Fort Zachary Taylor.
Key West became the richest city in Florida.
Same clay bed.
Yeah.
This was made last month. This was made 170 years ago.
Wow.
Same clay bed.
Yeah, that's
Right.
amazing.
So same thing with our mortar. The cement that we used here is from Rosendale, New York, and it's a special kind, American natural cement. Now, back in the Victorian era, that was the most common cement around, and everybody was using it all the time.
Yeah.
But as technology changed, and Ogden cement got invented, and Portland cement got invented, the natural cement got forgotten about. So when they unburied Fort Taylor and started trying to fix it, the guys got out here with the Portland cement, which is too strong, too rigid.
Yeah.
And now these bricks, they have a problem. They're so porous that they actually swell a little bit in moisture and humidity. And if your mortar is too rigid, then the face of your brick will shatter and come completely off. Here, zoom in over here and check it out.
I've seen
Look
that in New Orleans.
Look what happens,
Yeah.
right? That's because your cement is stronger than your brick is.
Okay, guys, this is a how-to on how to not restore a 150-year-old,
How to not
200-year-old
do it,
building.
you bet.
Yeah.
And what were you telling us about the roof system? I noticed it was all replaced.
Oh, yeah, well, when they took off the top floors, the Army Corps of Engineers guys, they went ahead and put a really thick concrete slab up there thinking they'd make it bomb-proof. And that was too heavy for the building, and it started causing it to bear down a little bit. So once the jurisdiction got changed over to the state park, we took that concrete rooftop off of there thinking that we'd help preserve the building.
God, I bet that was a job.
And then put a very lightweight wooden roof up there. The downside is the guy who put the roof up there did a double peak roof with a spine down the middle. Right now, every time that roof heats up, the two peaks push off of that spine, pushing out on my walls.
Push it out this way and
Pushing
then
the whole thing down.
Oh man.
And it's cracking everything.
You bet. So it's cracking the walls, causing the whole thing to buckle.
And how much of a repair job is that going to be?
Well, initially it was about $1 million for the roof, but now, given the fact that we have to remove that roof and then replace all of our walls, it's probably going to be about a $6 million repair.
Yeah, you gotta just
Give
redo everything.
Farm Girl, give him a couple of bucks.
No, don't do that.
Toward the 20 million.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Thank you for the tour.
Yeah, no
That's
problem,
awesome.
man. My
That's
name is
really
Deadeye
neat.
Rick. I'm one of the park historians.
It's nice to meet you. I'm
know,
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Jennifer, well
nice
met.
to meet you, Deadeye.
Jay.
So what I'm doing today is I'm not working on my museum or my restoration project. I've got a bunch of artifacts that need some attention. I've got some iron shutters that go on the cannon windows. I've got some cannonballs and things like that I'm going to be displaying for some children on Monday at the schools.
Neat.
It's awesome. I'm going to bring bombs into the school. I'm not gonna get
You're
in
the
trouble.
only guy that can
Yeah,
do that.
That's right.
But for now, I've got to knock the rust off of them and make them presentable, and hence the apron and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
Anyway, if you have any questions, you can just stick your head in the window there and ask away. And if you want to, enjoy a little show and tell, I'll explain to you what all my artifacts are.
Oh,
cool.
good. We'll come see
Yeah,
then.
in the meantime, enjoy my fortress. The
Yeah,
place-
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
That's awesome.
Show us.
Yeah, I'm heading up there right now.
Oh.
I just had to grab a couple of tools out of my shop.
Do you mind if we film you for YouTube?
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, great.
So yeah, I set up this room specifically to do restoration and maintenance on some of the artifacts that I like to use for demonstrations and such. In my security cage here, I've got a wide range of some of the smaller pieces that are lightweight enough that people are likely to walk away with them. Everything out here is too heavy for a team to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these guys are what I'm working on today because I'll be using them for that education thing in the schools starting on Monday.
That
There's
bullet?
a handful of us that are going out there to explain to the kids a little bit about the Victorian age. And since my field of study happens to be fortresses and their related artillery, I intend on bringing with me these three examples of the firepower that used to be delivered from this fortress.
Wow.
The earliest cannons that were mounted here were the model 1844 Columbiad, invented by George Bomford at West Point Foundry. And it fired the 8-inch cannonball, and this is an example of it right here. This is a 68-pound solid cannonball.
Wow.
But that cannon would have fired this ball about 3 miles, and when that cannon was mounted on the ground floor of the fortress, they would actually skip this like a stone across the water. That would make it more accurate and guarantee hits to the water line of the ship, where of course is where you want your hits to happen.
Yeah.
Now, they took that strategy a step further, and what they would take these to the hot shot oven and heat them up to cherry red hot, and then skip them across the water with the ship. That way they'd sizzle, sizzle, sizzle,
Yeah.
bang, and they'd retain their heat up to 4 skips. Each skip would slow down the momentum just enough that instead of punching a hole through the hull of the ship, this cannonball would embed and catch it on fire. Right?
wow.
So that's our ground floor firing resolution. Right?
So
Now,
That was high tech.
Yeah.
in the late 1800s, they came up with rifling for cannons. Now, the reason why they didn't do this earlier was because the regular cast iron is too soft, and as it heats up, the rifling grooves would wear out too quickly, and after only like 5 or 6 shots, you'd have a smooth bore gun.
Yeah.
Right? When they started realizing that if you put the cooling jacket down the barrel of the gun, you'd have harder iron on the inside, and your rifling grooves would stay. That's when they started making large caliber cannons with rifling grooves, and that's when the cannonballs changed from being round to being bullet shaped. Right, so this is for approximately the same sized gun, but as you can see, they could deliver way more ordnance,
Yeah.
Sure.
up to 3 times as much in the way of payload.
Wow.
Now, the way that the bullet-shaped projectile worked is it was smaller than the bore of the actual gun. That way, you could seat it in there and load it, no problem. But when your propellant charge goes off, that would have to seal up around it.
Yeah.
So around the base of the bullet, you would have a softer iron. This part is called the sabot. And when your propellant charge goes off behind it, this mushrooms out and fills all the gaps in the rifling groove, and that way it keeps all the pressure behind it, sends the bullet flying, and the sabot will seat into the rifling grooves and spiral so that this would fly straight and true like a
Yeah.
football through the air. Right, so these would have been hollow and filled with an explosive charge. Since the rifled cannons were way more accurate, these are what they put up on the rooftop, and the rifled cannons had a range of about 4 miles. So as the ship is approaching Key West from the channel, that ship is confined to a 200-yard wide channel in which they cannot maneuver.
Yeah.
So they're bowed towards us and can't return fire.
Oh,
and they'd be
man.
approaching us like that for at least 2 hours while we're skipping hot shot at their hull and strafing their decks with explosive charge. Right? Now, if they get past our south-facing front, that was firing resolution from one front. And then they get around over here to the narrow side on our western front and change the firepower altogether. Because now in the narrow part of our channel, you don't want to sink a ship, you trap your own fleet. What they want to do instead is prevent that ship from firing on us. So they start firing grape shot or canister shot into the gun windows of that ship.
Do those break apart?
Absolutely. This would load into the cannon just like it is, and when the propellant charge would go off, this would fragment out and come flying out
Yeah.
in pieces. So you'd wind up with 9 cannonballs flying at you at once, plus the banding would break up into bullet-sized fragments that would all come spraying at you. The post and bolts down the middle would be like a deadly spear that would penetrate clean through the ship inside and out the other. And then, of course, the 2 discs, like deadly frisbees that don't fly straight, whipping through the air.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we're talking about a 12-gun battery, 3 levels tall, so the tune of 36 cannons, all trying to pump this in the windows of your ship.
They're not making it
All right.
fast there.
How terrifying is this? Right, so if that ship was trying to fire the same thing back at us, we had iron shutters that automatically opened and closed. They were 2 inches thick, and they were designed that when you fire the cannon, they'd fly open and then bounce off the outside of the fortress and close back shut again, right? So our guys were protected.
Yeah.
The ship, on the other hand, not so much. Their gun windows are like 3.5 feet wide,
Yeah.
3 feet tall, and there's 50 of them on each side of the ship, and the gun crew's got to open up that window, run the gun into battery, aim it, wait for the ship to quit rocking, fire
Yeah.
it, reach out there, close the thing shut. Meanwhile, we got 36 cannons all
Yeah.
aiming right at that window, boom, 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 right? So the math on this,
That didn't last too long.
124 gun battery, firing to the tune of 10 shots to the half hour per cannon using grape shot. 50% of that material is going to miss the ship altogether. The other 50% are going to strike that ship to the tune of 3 particulates per square foot, which means that 10.5 square foot opening is going to receive 36 particulates to the half hour per gun.
Wow.
All right? 3 tiers worth, everything going all at once, that's 1,600 parts getting in that ship to the half hour. In other words,
They're not
don't
making
try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, a lot of people ask me if our fortress ever saw combat. It's like, nah, we never fired a shot in anger. No one was stupid enough to attack us. And well, this is why.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Made them smart real fast.
They ever fired
That's
just for
awesome.
practice.
Can I take a picture of
Ah, see?
Now let him pick it up.
Wait, Jalen, take a pic.
That kind of cannonball is called canister, and there would have been 42 of them in like a soup can. The same purpose as this, grape shot, only a lot more of the little cannonballs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
So
man.
now we're at the cannon battery. This is so cool.
You have as many cannons as you'll probably need.
Hey, wait, don't even
For
try
a
it.
little target practice.
Deadeye Rick gave the real
Oh
lowdown.
man,
With,
so interesting. And he doesn't like it at all. You can tell.
yeah, you can tell he's just not
He's
interested.
just totally not into it. You like my gun?
I like your gun.
That is so
A girl and her
solid.
gun. Yeah. All right.
Pretty cool.
This is for all the architects, right?
How do they just pour it in a mold or something?
Oh, sweetie, that's granite. It-
How do
they
do
quarry that.
that?
That's
And
all.
they just like chiseled it?
Yes,
Wow.
they cut it. Look at that.
That's cool. Paradise.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
How's the water?
Huh?
How's the water?
So nice.
Remind you of the Bahamas a little bit?
It's like bathwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the coral.
Cool.